Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the massive alien ships appear on her screens. 12 different species had come together to deliver one message to humanity. The message was simple: surrender or die. The alien fleet was enormous. Sarah had never seen so many ships in one place. Each vessel was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Their technology was far beyond what Earth could produce. The ships moved without making any sound, and their hulls gleamed with materials that seemed to bend light itself. "Admiral," her communications officer called out. "They're requesting a meeting." Sarah nodded. She had expected this. For months, reports had been coming in from the outer colonies. Alien scouts had been watching human settlements. Trade routes had been disrupted. And now they were here at Earth itself, ready to deliver their demands. The main screen flickered to life. 12 different alien faces appeared, each one representing a species that controlled vast portions of the galaxy. Sarah recognized them from the intelligence files she had studied for years. The HFY looked like living crystals, their bodies shifting between different colors as they communicated. Their ships were the largest in the fleet, built from the same crystal-like material as their bodies. They had controlled the galactic center for over 1,000 years. The Morden were harder to see clearly. They existed as clouds of gas contained within environmental suits. Their ships looked like flowing metal, constantly changing shape. They were masters of technology that humans could barely understand. There were 10 other species, each one ancient and powerful. Together they called themselves the Galactic Hegemony. They had ruled the galaxy for millennia, keeping peace through strength and control. The HFY leader spoke first. Its voice came through the translator as cold and emotionless. "Humans of Earth, we are the Galactic Hegemony. We have observed your species for 50 of your years. We have watched you spread across the stars like a disease." Sarah kept her face calm, but inside she felt her anger rising. Disease was not how she would describe humanity's expansion into space. Humans had built 47 colonies across 23 star systems. They had terraformed dead worlds and created new homes for billions of people. They had done this through hard work and determination. "You call us a disease," Sarah replied. "We call it progress. We harm no one. We take nothing from other species. We build our homes on empty worlds." The Morden representative's gas cloud shifted colors from blue to angry red. "Empty worlds that we chose to leave empty. You take what is not yours. You spread without permission. You threaten the order we have maintained for thousands of years." Another alien spoke up. This one looked like a giant insect with too many eyes. "Your species is violent. Your history is full of wars. You cannot be trusted with the power to travel between stars." Sarah had heard these accusations before. Yes, humans had fought wars. Yes, they had made mistakes, but they had also learned from those mistakes. The colonies were peaceful. Humans had not started a single conflict with another species. "We offer you a choice," the HFY continued. "Submit to our authority. Accept our guidance. Allow us to control your expansion. Do this and your species may survive. And if we refuse," Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer, "then you will be removed. Completely. We have done this before with other species that threatened galactic stability. We will do it again if necessary." The threat was clear. Sarah looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These were good people, dedicated to protecting humanity and its colonies. They had families on Earth and the colony worlds. They had sworn to defend human civilization. "I need time to discuss this with Earth Command," Sarah said. "You have one standard day," the insect-like alien replied. "After that, we will demonstrate our resolve." The communication ended. The alien faces disappeared from the screen, leaving only the view of their massive fleet hanging in space near Earth. Sarah turned to her tactical officer. "How many ships?" "Over 3,000, Admiral. Each one more advanced than our best vessels. If they wanted to destroy Earth right now, we couldn't stop them." Sarah nodded grimly. She had known this day might come. Earth's military leaders had always planned for the possibility of contact with hostile aliens. But seeing it happen was different from planning for it. "Get me a secure channel to Earth Command," she ordered. The next few hours were filled with urgent conversations. Earth's leaders debated their options. Some wanted to fight immediately. Others suggested accepting the aliens' terms. A few proposed trying to negotiate a better deal. But Sarah knew the truth. She had seen the contempt in the aliens' eyes when they looked at humans. This was not a negotiation. This was a demand for total surrender. The hegemony saw humans as nothing more than dangerous animals that needed to be controlled. As the 24-hour deadline approached, Sarah received her final orders from Earth Command. The message was brief. Refuse their demands. Protect human sovereignty. Prepare for war. Sarah called her senior officers to the bridge. She looked at each of them carefully. These men and women would follow her orders, even if it meant their deaths. Send a message to the alien fleet, she ordered her communications officer. The main screen lit up again, showing the 12 alien representatives. They looked confident, certain that humans would surrender rather than face extinction. Have you made your decision? The HFY asked. Sarah straightened her uniform and looked directly into the alien leader's crystal eyes. Humanity rejects your demands. We will not surrender our freedom. We will not accept your control. If you want to remove us, you will have to try. The aliens showed no surprise. If anything, they seemed pleased. The insect-like creature's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Very well, the HFY said. We will show you the cost of defiance. Perhaps watching one of your colonies burn will change your mind. The communication ended again. Within hours, reports came in from the outer colonies. The alien fleet had split up, with a portion heading toward the New Geneva system. New Geneva was one of humanity's newest colonies, home to 12 million people. Sarah tried to warn them, but the aliens moved too fast. Their ships appeared in the New Geneva system and opened fire without any warning. The colony's defenses were overwhelmed in minutes. The planet's cities were destroyed from orbit. 12 million humans died in less than an hour. The aliens then sent one final message to Earth. This is what happens to those who defy the hegemony. You have another day to reconsider your decision. Sarah stood on her bridge, watching the reports of New Geneva's destruction. 12 million people gone in an instant. Men, women, and children who had done nothing wrong except be born human. The rage that filled her was unlike anything she had ever felt. This was not war. This was murder. These aliens had not just killed humans. They had shown that they saw human life as worthless. Sarah turned to her communications officer one last time. Open a channel to the alien fleet. All frequencies. Make sure every ship hears this. When the connection was established, Sarah spoke in a voice that was calm but filled with deadly promise. Since you chose war, let us show you how it's finished. The message spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Every human colony, every ship, every outpost received Admiral Chen's words at the exact same moment. The aliens had made their communications network available to ensure humans heard their threats. Now that same network carried humanity's response. Since you chose war, let us show you how it's finished. On the bridge of the Hegemony flagship, the HFY commander studied the human response. The words seemed simple enough, but something about them felt wrong. There was no fear in the human admiral's voice, no desperation, just cold certainty. Analysis, the commander ordered its tactical officer. The humans appear to be evacuating their outer colonies, came the reply. Long-range sensors show massive movements of civilian ships. They are running. The Mordoon representative's gas cloud shifted to a pleased yellow color. As expected. They realize they cannot fight us. Soon they will beg for mercy. But the insect-like Veltar was more cautious. Its many eyes studied the tactical displays carefully. Something is wrong. Look at the patterns of their evacuation. This is too organized, too fast. It is as if they planned this. The HFY commander dismissed the concern. All species plan for war. The humans are simply better organized than most. It will not save them. Across human space, the evacuation continued, but it was unlike any retreat in galactic history. Civilian transports moved in perfect coordination with military vessels. Entire populations disappeared from planets within hours, leaving behind empty cities and silent installations. On the colony world of New Harmony, Captain James Rodriguez supervised the final evacuation. His job was to make sure every civilian reached the transport ship safely. But he also had another duty, one that only a few people knew about. All civilians are clear, Captain, his lieutenant reported. James nodded and activated a secure communicator. Command, this is New Harmony. Package delivered. Beginning final phase. Understood, New Harmony. You are clear to proceed. James looked around the colony's main settlement one last time. 3 million people had called this place home for almost 20 years. They had built farms and factories, schools and hospitals. Now it was empty but not abandoned. "Set the charges," James ordered. His team moved quickly through the settlement, placing devices that looked like standard demolition charges. But these were something else entirely. Each device was connected to a network that ran throughout the colony's infrastructure. When activated, they would turn the entire planet into something the aliens would never expect. Similar scenes played out across dozens of human worlds. Colonists evacuated with suspicious speed and efficiency. Military forces retreated in good order, taking their equipment with them. To alien observers, it looked like humanity was giving up without a fight. The hegemony fleet moved deeper into human space, expecting to find defenseless worlds ready for occupation. Their ships spread out across multiple systems, confident in their overwhelming technological advantage. On Earth, Admiral Chen met with the leaders of human command in a deep underground bunker. The room was filled with displays showing the positions of both human and alien forces across the galaxy. "Phase 1 is complete," reported General Morrison, head of Colonial Defense. "All civilian populations have been evacuated from the target zones. Our people are safe." "Phase 2? Chen asked. "Ready and waiting for your order," replied Dr. Elena Vasquez, head of the Special Projects Division. "All packages are in position." Chen studied the displays. For 50 years, humanity had prepared for this moment, not because they wanted war, but because they understood that peaceful species needed to be ready for those who were not peaceful. The aliens thought they knew humans. They had studied human history and seen the wars, the conflicts, the violence. But they had missed the most important lesson of that history. Humans learned from their mistakes. The HFY had conquered dozens of species over the centuries. Each time they had faced traditional military resistance, ship against ship, technology against technology. They had always won because their technology was superior. The Mordun had perfected the art of overwhelming force. Their enemies had always tried to match them strength for strength. It never worked, but humans had studied a different kind of war. They had learned from every conflict in their history, from ancient battles to modern warfare. They understood that victory did not always go to the strongest, but to the most determined and clever. On the alien flagship, new reports were coming in. The human retreats had revealed something unexpected. The empty colonies were not as empty as they appeared. "Commander," the tactical officer reported, "we are detecting unusual energy readings from the abandoned human settlements. The patterns are not consistent with standard power systems." The HFY commander was annoyed. "Explain." "It appears the humans have left behind some kind of infrastructure, possibly automated defense systems." The insect-like Veltar's mandibles clicked nervously. "I recommend caution. We should scan these installations more carefully before proceeding." But the Morden representative was impatient. "We waste time with excessive caution. These are primitive humans. Whatever they have left behind cannot threaten us." The commander agreed. "Begin occupation of the human colonies. Establish control over their infrastructure. Show them the price of resistance." The first hegemony ships moved toward the abandoned human world of Kepler Station. It had been a major industrial center, home to 5 million humans. Now it appeared completely deserted. As the alien ships entered orbit, their sensors detected the usual signs of a dead colony. Empty buildings, silent factories, abandoned spaceports. The only unusual thing was how clean everything looked, as if the humans had carefully maintained their facilities even while evacuating. The lead ship, a massive HFY crystal cruiser, moved closer to the planet's surface. Its commander was eager to claim this victory and move on to the next target. That was when the humans showed the hegemony, their first lesson in how war should be finished. The abandoned factories suddenly came to life. But instead of producing goods, they began producing something else. Weapons. Thousands of automated defense platforms rose from hidden compartments. Missile launchers emerged from fake buildings. Energy weapons powered up from underground installations. The entire planet had been turned into a massive trap. The HFY ship had no time to react. Hundreds of weapons fired simultaneously, overwhelming its shields and armor. The crystal hull cracked and shattered as human missiles found their target. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Similar scenes played out across 12 other human worlds. Hegemony ships approached what they thought were defenseless colonies, only to discover that the humans had weaponized everything. Spaceports became missile bases. Mining stations became gun platforms. Even civilian buildings revealed hidden weapon systems. In the first hour of what the aliens thought would be an easy occupation, the hegemony lost over 200 ships. Each one had been destroyed by weapons that should not have existed, fired from installations that should have been empty. On the flagship, the HFY commander stared at the tactical displays in shock. The orderly advance had become a series of disasters. Ship after ship showed as destroyed or missing. How is this possible? The commander demanded. The Veltar representative's eyes moved independently as it studied the data. The humans did not evacuate their colonies. They converted them. Every settlement has become a military installation. But our sensors showed no life signs, the Morden protested. Because there are no life signs, the Veltar replied. They are using automated systems. The entire planet is now a weapon. The commander felt something it had never experienced before, doubt. How had the humans accomplished this? How had they built such extensive fortifications without being detected? And most importantly, what else had they prepared? A new message arrived from Earth. Once again, it was Admiral Chen's voice, calm and steady. You wanted to see human colonies. Now you have seen them. This is how humans prepare for war. This is how we protect what we love. You have seen nothing yet. The commander realized that the humans had been planning this for much longer than anyone had imagined. The speed of their evacuation, the sophistication of their defenses, the coordination of their response. None of this could have been prepared in a few days. The humans had been ready for war long before the hegemony had arrived. They had spent decades, perhaps longer, preparing for this exact scenario. And if this was just the beginning, what else were they hiding? For the first time in its long life, the HFY commander began to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. The hegemony fleet regrouped after the first day's disasters. They had lost 300 ships to what they thought were empty human colonies. The Council of Alien Commanders met to discuss their next move. This changes nothing, the Morden representative insisted. Its gas cloud swirling with angry red colors. We still outnumber them. We still have superior technology. These are just clever traps. The HFY commander was less certain. Clever, yes, but how did they build these defenses without us knowing? Our scouts have been watching human space for years. The Veltar delegate clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. Perhaps we have not been watching as carefully as we thought. Perhaps the humans have been hiding more than just weapons. The truth was more disturbing than any of them realized. For 50 years, humanity had been preparing for this war. Every colony built had been designed with defense in mind. Every industrial facility could be converted to weapons production. Every civilian transport could become a military vessel. But the aliens were about to discover something even more troubling. Humans did not fight the way other species fought. The hegemony's next move was predictable. They would avoid the obvious traps and strike at targets that seemed too valuable for humans to abandon. The major industrial centers, the shipyards, the core worlds that supplied the colonies. Admiral Chen watched their movements from Earth Command. They're going for the manufacturing centers, she told her staff. Titan Station, Europa Yards, the asteroid belt facilities. Should we warn our people there? Asked General Morrison. Chen shook her head. Our people know what to do. It's time for Phase 3. In the Titan system, the largest human shipyard complex waited for the hegemony attack. Unlike the abandoned colonies, this facility was clearly occupied. Thousands of ships moved around the massive construction platforms. Work lights illuminated the skeletal frames of warships under construction. The approaching HFY fleet expected heavy resistance. They came prepared for a major battle, with their most powerful ships leading the attack. The crystal dreadnoughts moved forward with confidence, their shields at maximum power. But as they closed in on the shipyards, something strange happened. The human ships began moving away from the facility, not fleeing exactly, but withdrawing to a safe distance. It was as if they were clearing the area for something. Sir, the HFY tactical officer reported, the human ships are retreating, but they're not leaving the system. They're just moving away from the target. The fleet commander studied the display. Perhaps they cannot defend such a large installation. Press the attack. The crystal ships accelerated toward the shipyards. As they approached, human workers could be seen evacuating the platforms. Emergency lights flashed as people rushed to escape pods and small transport ships. Then the hegemony fleet discovered what the humans meant by clearing the area. The shipyards exploded. not from enemy fire, but from massive charges placed by the humans themselves. The explosion was enormous, visible from several light minutes away. The blast caught the leading HFY ships and destroyed them instantly, but that was only the beginning. As the crystal ships reeled from the explosion, they found themselves flying through a cloud of debris. But this was not ordinary wreckage. The humans had filled their shipyards with material specifically chosen to damage HFY crystal technology. Microscopic fragments of specially treated metal ate through crystal hulls like acid. Electromagnetic charges disrupted the harmonic frequencies that held HFY ships together. Within minutes, the entire crystal fleet was falling apart. The few surviving ships tried to retreat, but they found their path blocked. The human ships that had withdrawn earlier had not fled. They had positioned themselves to cut off any escape. Small, fast human vessels swarmed the damaged crystal ships, finishing them off with weapons designed specifically to exploit HFY weaknesses. Similar disasters struck other hegemony forces across human space. At Europa yards, moored gas ships found themselves flying into clouds of specially engineered particles that disrupted their containment systems. Their gas-based crews began to dissipate into space, unable to maintain their physical form. At the asteroid belt mining facilities, Veltar insectoid ships discovered that the abandoned mining equipment was actually a massive web of cables and nets. The insect ships became tangled in the web, unable to maneuver while human gunships picked them off one by one. Each attack revealed the same terrifying pattern. The humans had studied every member of the hegemony for decades. They knew the exact weaknesses of each species' technology and biology. They had prepared specific weapons and tactics for each type of enemy. On the hegemony flagship, the commanders watched their forces being systematically destroyed. This was not the way war was supposed to work. Civilized species fought with honor. They met in open battle, ship against ship, until one side proved superior. But humans fought like they wanted to win, not like they wanted to prove their honor. They're not fighting us, the Veltar representative realized. They're exterminating us, like we would exterminate a pest infestation. The HFY commander's crystal body flashed with angry colors. This is not warfare. This is treachery, dishonor. But even as it spoke, more reports came in. Human ships had appeared in hegemony-controlled systems, not to attack military targets, but to strike at supply lines, communication networks, and logistics bases. The humans seemed to understand that modern war was not won by destroying enemy fleets. It was won by making it impossible for the enemy to keep fighting. A Mordan supply convoy found itself ambushed by human ships that appeared from nowhere, destroyed the cargo vessels, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. A HFY communication station went silent, its crystal resonators destroyed by precisely targeted electromagnetic pulses. Most disturbing of all, hegemony commanders began receiving reports of sabotage from their own ships. Equipment failed at critical moments. Computer systems crashed during battle. Navigation computers provided wrong coordinates. It took several disasters before they realized the truth. Humans had been among them for years. Hidden agents disguised as traders or diplomats or workers had been placed throughout hegemony space. When the war began, they had activated, striking at targets from within. How long? The HFY commander demanded when the scope of human infiltration became clear. How long have they been preparing this? Decades, replied the Veltar intelligence chief. Possibly since first contact. They have been planning this war since the day they met us. The revelation was staggering. While the hegemony had seen humans as primitive newcomers to galactic civilization, the humans had been studying them, learning their weaknesses, and preparing for war. The humans had known this day would come. They had understood that a species as aggressive and expansionist as humanity would eventually threaten the hegemony's order. So they had prepared for war while pretending to want peace. But the worst was yet to come. As hegemony forces struggled to deal with human sabotage and ambushes, they began to notice something else. The careful balance between the 12 hegemony species was starting to break down. Old grudges and rivalries that had been suppressed for centuries began to surface. The HFY blamed the Mordan for poor intelligence. The Veltar accused the gas creatures of cowardice. Other species questioned whether the crystal beings were competent to lead the alliance. It was only when the arguments turned violent that they realized what was happening. The humans were not just attacking military targets. They were attacking the political and social bonds that held the hegemony together. Human agents were spreading carefully crafted rumors and lies. They were exploiting every old wound and ancient rivalry between the hegemony species. They were turning the aliens against each other. This was not how civilized species fought war. This was something else entirely, something that no alien mind had ever conceived of. This was how humans fought when their survival was at stake, and the hegemony was beginning to understand that they had made the worst mistake in galactic history. They had given humanity a reason to show them what humans were really capable of when they stopped pretending to be civilized. 3 weeks into what the hegemony had expected to be a quick war, their situation had become desperate. Half their fleet was destroyed or damaged. Their supply lines were in chaos. And worst of all, the 12 species that made up their alliance were beginning to turn on each other. The HFY commander stood in the wreckage of what had once been the flagship's primary command center. A human saboteur had somehow placed explosives in the crystal matrix that powered the ship's systems. The explosion had killed dozens of crew members and left the mighty vessel barely functional. "Status report," the commander demanded, its crystal body flickering with unstable energy patterns. "We have lost contact with the 4th and 7th fleets," reported the tactical officer. "The Morden 3rd Collective is refusing to follow joint operations protocols. The Veltar are withdrawing their forces to defend their home systems." The commander felt something that its species had never experienced in thousands of years of warfare. Fear. Not fear of death, but fear of complete failure. The humans were not just winning the war. They were destroying the very idea of hegemony superiority. "How are they doing this?" the commander asked. "How does a primitive species defeat the greatest military force in galactic history?" The answer came from an unexpected source. A human prisoner, captured during one of the few successful hegemony operations, had requested to speak with the command staff. The request was unusual, but the aliens were desperate for any information about human strategy. The prisoner was brought to the bridge under heavy guard. He was a young man, perhaps 30 years old, wearing the uniform of a human military engineer. His name was Marcus Webb, and he showed no fear despite being surrounded by beings that could kill him with a thought. "You wanted to talk," the HFY commander said.
"Speak." Marcus looked around the damaged bridge and smiled slightly.
"You still don't understand, do you? You think this is about technology, about superior firepower, about who has the biggest ships, is it not?" asked the Morden representative, its gas cloud shifting to confused blue colors. "No," Marcus replied. "This is about understanding war itself. You fight like you're playing a game with rules, like you expect your enemy to follow the same code of honor that you do." The Veltar delegates' many eyes focused on the human. "There are laws of warfare. Civilized species follow these laws." Marcus laughed, and the sound was not pleasant. "Civilized species. That's your problem right there. You think civilization means fighting fair. You think honor matters more than victory. Are you saying humans have no honor?" the HFY commander demanded. "I'm saying humans understand something you don't," Marcus replied. "When someone threatens to exterminate your entire species, honor becomes a luxury you can't afford. You showed us what you did to New Geneva. 12 million innocent people. You called it a demonstration." The bridge fell silent. The aliens had expected the human to show fear or beg for mercy. Instead, he was lecturing them like a teacher explaining a simple concept to slow students. "So we showed you what humans do when someone murders our families," Marcus continued. "We don't challenge you to honorable single combat. We don't limit ourselves to civilized weapons. We use everything. Every advantage, every weakness you have, every mistake you make." "This is barbarism," the Morden protested. "No," Marcus said quietly. "This is survival. And if you think what you've seen so far is barbaric, wait until you see what comes next." The human's words proved prophetic. Within hours of his capture, new reports began reaching the hegemony command. Human forces had appeared in the most secure regions of alien space. Not just military targets this time, but civilian centers. But the humans were not attacking civilians. They were doing something much more sophisticated. They were demonstrating that they could attack civilians if they chose to. On the HFY homeworld, a human stealth ship appeared in orbit around the planet's capital city. It transmitted a simple message. "We could destroy this city. We choose not to, this time." Then it vanished. leaving behind evidence of just how deeply human agents had penetrated hegemony security. The ship had flown through the most heavily defended system in HFY space without being detected. If it had carried weapons instead of a message, millions of HFY would have died. Similar demonstrations occurred throughout hegemony space. Human ships appeared near vital facilities, transmitted messages, and disappeared. Each message was the same: we could destroy this. We choose not to. This time. The psychological effect was devastating. The hegemony species had always believed their homeworlds were absolutely safe. The idea that primitive humans could threaten the heart of their civilization was unthinkable. But the humans were not finished. The next phase of their war plan targeted something even more fundamental than military forces or civilian morale. They began attacking the economic foundation of hegemony civilization. Trade routes that had operated safely for centuries became death traps. Human raiders appeared from nowhere, destroyed cargo ships, and vanished before defense forces could respond. But they were not random attacks. The humans targeted specific goods, specific trade relationships, specific economic partnerships. Within days, the carefully balanced hegemony economy began to collapse. Species that had depended on each other for resources found their supply lines cut. Old trade disputes that had been settled centuries ago were suddenly relevant again, as shortages created new conflicts. The Veltar accused the Morden of hoarding medical supplies. The HFY demanded tribute from smaller species to replace lost crystal shipments. Ancient territorial disputes resurfaced as species competed for remaining resources. The humans had studied hegemony society for decades, and they understood exactly which pressure points to target. Every weakness, every old rivalry, every suppressed conflict was exploited with surgical precision. But the most terrifying discovery came when hegemony intelligence finally uncovered the full scope of human preparation. The evidence was overwhelming and horrifying. Humans had been preparing for this war for over 50 years. Every human colony had been built with military purposes in mind. Every trade mission had included intelligence gathering. Every diplomatic contact had been an opportunity to study alien weaknesses. The humans had not just been planning to defend themselves. They had been planning to destroy the hegemony completely if war ever came. They have been studying us since first contact, the Veltar intelligence chief reported to the command council. Every weakness, every internal conflict, every technological limitation. They know us better than we know ourselves. Impossible, the Morden representative protested. We are the masters of information warfare. Our intelligence networks span the galaxy. And humans have been inside those networks for decades, the Veltar replied. They have agents in our governments, our militaries, our research facilities. They know our plans before we make them. The scale of human infiltration was staggering. Agents had been placed in critical positions throughout hegemony space. They had influenced policy decisions, sabotaged research projects, and fed information back to Earth for decades. Some agents had been in place so long that they had started families with aliens, rising to positions of trust and authority. When the war began, they activated like viruses in a computer system, striking at the most vital functions of hegemony society. The HFY commanders stared at the intelligence reports in growing horror. The humans had not just prepared for war. They had prepared to win it, completely, permanently. What do they want? The commander asked. Do they want to conquer us? To rule the galaxy? The answer came in another message from Admiral Chen. Her face appeared on every screen in hegemony space simultaneously, proving once again that humans had complete access to alien communication networks. We don't want to rule you, she said, her voice calm and cold. We don't want your worlds or your resources or your submission. We want you to understand that if you threaten humanity again, we will not stop until every one of your species is extinct. This is your choice now. End this war and withdraw from human space, or we will show you what total war really means. You think you have seen human warfare? You have seen nothing. We have weapons you cannot imagine, strategies you cannot comprehend, and a determination you cannot break. Choose quickly. Our patience is running out. The message ended, leaving the hegemony commanders in stunned silence. They had started this war to eliminate a potential threat. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. They had given humanity a reason to show them what humans could really do when their survival was at stake. The Hegemony Council met in emergency session on the neutral station of Deep Harbor. far from the war zone. What remained of their leadership gathered to face a truth none of them wanted to admit. They were losing a war they had expected to win in days. The HFY commander's crystal body was dimmed with exhaustion and stress. Half the crystal fleet was destroyed. The other half was scattered across the galaxy, unable to coordinate effectively due to constant human interference. The Morden representatives' gas cloud had turned a sickly gray color. 3 of their major collectives had suffered containment failures due to human sabotage. Billions of their people had dissipated into space. The other 10 species were in similar condition. The mighty hegemony, ruler of the galaxy for millennia, had been reduced to a collection of desperate refugees in just 1 month of war with humanity. "We must negotiate," said the delegate from the Crevan Empire. "The humans have made their point. They are more dangerous than we realized." "Negotiate?" The Veltar representative's mandibles clicked angrily. "They have humiliated us before the entire galaxy. If we surrender now, our authority will never recover. If we continue fighting, there will be no authority left to recover," replied the Morden. "They are destroying us piece by piece." The argument was interrupted by an urgent communication from hegemony space. A panicked HFY officer appeared on the main screen, his crystal body flashing with terror. "Council members, you must see this," the officer gasped. "The humans. They've done something impossible." The main display changed to show a star system in HFY space, but something was wrong with the image. The star itself was behaving strangely, its light flickering in patterns that defied all known physics. "What are we looking at?" the commander demanded. "The Kethmore system," the officer replied. "The humans they have somehow destabilized our star. It's going to go supernova." The council chamber fell silent. Destabilizing a star was impossible. No known technology could cause such an effect, yet the evidence was there on the screen. "How many people live in that system?" someone asked quietly. 2 billion, the officer answered. "The evacuation ships cannot possibly save them all." Before anyone could respond, another communication came in. Then another. And another. Soon the chamber was filled with reports from across hegemony space. Stars were becoming unstable in 12 different systems. All of them major population centers. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main screen. Her expression was harder than the aliens had ever seen it. "Members of the Galactic Hegemony," she began, "you are witnessing the final phase of human warfare. For 50 years we have placed devices around key stars in your territory. These devices can trigger stellar collapse, causing your suns to explode." The aliens stared in horror. The technology she described was beyond anything they had imagined possible. To destabilize a star required understanding of physics that should have taken millennia to develop. "This is impossible," the HFY commander whispered. "No species has such power." "No species except humanity," Chen replied. "We have spent 50 years preparing for this war. We studied your science, improved upon it, and developed weapons you never dreamed of. The devices around your stars are just one example." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "Right now, 24 billion of your people are in immediate danger. Their stars will explode in 72 hours unless you agree to our terms." "What terms?" the Morden representative asked, its gas cloud now a terrified white. Chen's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. "Complete withdrawal from human space, full recognition of human sovereignty, reparations for New Geneva, and a guarantee that no hegemony species will ever threaten humanity again." "And if we refuse?" the Veltar delegate asked. "Then you will learn what total war really means," Chen replied. "Those 24 billion people will die. But that will only be the beginning. We have devices around every major star in hegemony space. We can destroy your entire civilization in a matter of hours." The threat was beyond anything the aliens had ever encountered. The humans were not just offering to defeat them. They were offering to commit genocide on a galactic scale. "This is monstrous," the Crevan delegate protested. "You would murder billions of innocent people?" Chen's eyes grew cold. "You murdered 12 million innocent people on New Geneva to make a point. You threatened to exterminate our entire species. You chose to make this a war of extinction. We are simply better at it than you are." The truth was devastating. The hegemony had indeed threatened to destroy humanity completely. They had demonstrated their willingness to commit genocide. Now humanity was demonstrating that they could do the same thing, but on a much larger scale. "However," Chen continued, "humanity does not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want to destroy your civilizations. We want to be left alone to build our own future. End this war now and your people will live. The Hegemony Council found themselves facing an impossible choice. Surrender meant admitting that a primitive species had defeated the greatest military force in galactic history. It meant the end of their authority and the collapse of their empire. But continuing the war meant certain extinction. The humans had demonstrated beyond doubt that they could destroy any hegemony world at will. They had turned the galaxy's own stars into weapons. The Zeph High Commander made the decision that would echo through galactic history. We accept your terms. The words came out as barely a whisper, but they carried across the galaxy in seconds. The mighty hegemony, ruler of the stars for thousands of years, had surrendered to a species that had only reached space a century ago. Chen nodded grimly. Wise choice. Your fleets will withdraw from human space immediately. Reparations for New Geneva will be delivered within 1 year, and you will sign a formal treaty recognizing human sovereignty. What about the stars? The Morden asked desperately. Will you disarm the devices? When the treaty is signed and reparations are paid, Chen replied. Until then, they remain active. Consider them insurance against future misunderstandings. As the communication ended, the Hegemony Council sat in stunned silence. They had begun this war to eliminate what they saw as a threat to galactic order. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous. Humanity had not just won the war. They had won it so completely that no other species would ever dare challenge them again. The humans had shown that they were capable of destruction on a scale that no one had imagined possible. But perhaps more importantly, they had shown restraint. When they could have destroyed their enemies completely, they had chosen mercy. When they could have conquered the galaxy, they had chosen peace. The war ended not with humanity ruling over the aliens, but with a new understanding of what humans were capable of when their survival was threatened. The hegemony species returned to their homeworlds, rebuilt their fleets, and told themselves that they had learned a valuable lesson. They had learned that some species should never be pushed too far. Years later, when other civilizations asked about the brief human hegemony war, the official records were kept classified. But the message spread through unofficial channels, whispered in bars and trading posts across the galaxy. The humans seem peaceful and friendly. They build beautiful colonies and create wonderful art. They trade fairly and negotiate honestly. But if you threaten them, if you push them too far, they will show you things that will give you nightmares for the rest of your life. The last message from Human Command was, since you chose war, let us show you how it's finished. And they did. They showed the entire galaxy how humans finish wars. They finished them so completely that no one ever wants to fight them again. Admiral Chen retired shortly after the war ended, but not before ensuring that humanity's defenses remained strong. The devices around hegemony stars were never removed, serving as a permanent reminder of what would happen if anyone threatened human civilization again. And in the deep archives of Human Command, plans were kept for weapons even more terrible than stellar destroyers, weapons that would never be built unless humanity faced extinction again, because humans had learned the most important lesson of warfare. The best way to win a war is to be so terrifying that no one ever wants to fight you in the first place.